Ladies and gentlemen, we are at lesson 5.9, video number 2, and we're going to start off with a couple of story problems. You do not have to write the story problems down. I know that some of you will be watching this at home on Sunday and you won't have the handouts. So don't worry about copying down the story problem. I'm going to write that. What I want you to do is get the pertinent numbers. Pertinent meaning the important numbers. So give me a second while I type up the story problem. Our first problem is Shemaiah has 2 eighths of a melon. Tamira has 5 eighths of a melon. Who has more and how much more? So we start out with a fairly simple problem in my mind that when you look at the numerators, you should be able to think, oh, 2 and 5. We should know which is greater, which is less. But let's break this down a little bit more and let's kind of talk about. So we have Shemaiah and Tamira. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the amount of melon that they have and we're going to break it into chunks. 1/8 plus 1/8. And then Tamira, we have 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. Now, when we look at this visually, we can really see the difference when we're comparing these two people and the amount of melon that they have. Because if we look, let's just highlight, we have 2 eighths here, and then we have 2 eighths here, don't we? But then we have this extra that Tamira has, and she has how many more? So we can talk about 2 eighths, which they have in common, and then we have the 3 eighths that Tamira has that Shemaiah doesn't. So who has more? Well, Tamira has more melon. And how much more? Well, 3 eighths more. So that's kind of how we can compare fractions there. And let's look at another problem here, and this one's going to be talking about shoelaces. So give me a second, I will type that up. My black shoelace is 7/12 yard long. My white shoelace is 9/12 yard long. 9/12 of a yard long. Which shoelace is shorter and how much shorter? Now, when we look at this, boys and girls, we should be able to discern that 7/12 is less than 9/12. Remember, when the denominator is the same, then when looking at the numerator, the greater the numerator, the greater the fraction. Okay? Which means, oh, that's really terrible. If I have something that's broken into 12, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So on one hand, I have 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the other one, I have 7, 8, 9. I have 9. Okay? Remember, this is the denominator is just the number of chunks that it's broken into, and the numerator is the number of chunks that those chunks we're talking about. So we should be able to tell, because we have the same denominator, that 9 is greater than 7. So that 9/12 is greater. So the shorter one is the black shoelace. So the black shoelace is shorter. Okay. Now the question is how much shorter? And to do that, we're going to set up an equation. Now, the first equation that we want to look at, as we can look at and we're going to start off with what's called, remember, the situation equation. And let me type that situation. Whoops, I can't type right now. Situation equation. And that's what the problem is asking us. So I'm going to take 7, oops, I need to go to my 7/12 plus, and I'm just going to add numerator, denominator, oops, but I know my denominator is going to equal 9/12. So that's the situation equation. That's what it's asking me. It's asking me, well, if I have my 7/12, how much would I add to it to equal my 9/12, the longer shoelace. Now, our solution equation, and I probably should have typed that in red. Let's change that. There we go. Our solution equation is going to be 9/12 less 7/12 is going to give us n over d. Now, we should know d because this is speaking the same language, so let's just draw an arrow here. This is 12ths. Now, 9 less 7 is going to be 2. So, the black shoelace is the shorter shoelace, and it is shorter by 2/12 of a yard. And I should probably add that, of a yard. So this is kind of an example of how we compare fractions. And we showed you two different ways. Well, technically we showed you three different ways. The first way is we broke it apart into this model here. Second one, we drew a visual, but we also just looked at, being we have the common language here, which is greater, 9 or 12. If that didn't help, we drew sticks here, and then finally we have this aspect right here. And quite honestly, I don't know what happened with this. I don't know if you guys can see all these diagonal lines, but we can also use numeric equations to solve it. So that's video 2. Video 3 is going to be much of the same. Video 3, unfortunately, because I have a picture that I took from the book, we won't be able to use the black. So I'll talk to you in just a bit.